Hey there, welcome back to the show. Excuse me. It's Monday, February 2nd, and we're going to go through our usual batch of stuff that I pulled for you. Quickly, a word about me, and I'll just do these for a couple more interviews. My name is Tom Carnell. I was a buyer for Tower Records, Record Factory, and Warehouse for many years, like 20 or so. Back in the day, I published and wrote most of a dark art magazine called Carpe Noctem. I wrote for Fangoria, Dread Central, and a few other places for nearly 20 years. I'm now an author. Please check out my Amazon page. I've got a bunch of books out, and so I feel like that gives me a little bit of a platform to be able to tell you about some things that I found that are a little different. Please check out the text in the description below. I've included links to all of the albums I'm going to talk about later on in this episode. Just remember that this video is made with no cuts, no edits, no AI. It's just me hitting play and me hitting stop. It's come up that people have asked me, like, where do you find all of this stuff? Well, first of all, I've been a movie fan forever. I've watched 3 to 5 movies a day since I was a kid. Tons of film, tons of what I call time in the chair. That's you sitting in a chair, just going through stuff. Be inquisitive is my best advice to people. If you hear of something or you see something that sort of perks your interest, write it down. I keep a little notepad with me all the time, and whenever I run into something or if someone tells me about something, I write it down. I go through a lot of videos on YouTube and other places looking for music. This is an example of all of the kind of things I do. You can see that there's a ton of titles and band names. And by the way, these are all double-sided. So I just write them down. It doesn't cost me anything. I just write it down, go look at it. I look at the music up on Spotify or the movies on some of the streaming services that I pay for. And I look at it. If it doesn't perk my interest fairly quickly over this amount of time, I've been able to figure out within a few seconds whether it's going to be something that I'm going to care about. Save it, add it to your arsenal, listen to it when you have a chance, watch it when you have a chance. Instead of rewatching something you've seen 1,000 times, watch something new. Be inquisitive. I think that's more important than just about anything. We're going to start as usual this time with some 5 movie recommendations that you may or may not have heard. We're going to start with the 2021 film called Old Henry. My friend Brian turned me on to this. This is a 2021 film directed by Patsy Ponsorell, starring Tim Blake Nelson and Stephen Dorff. It has to do with a farmer with a secret who comes upon an injured man on his land, and he takes him in, and that man may or may not be wanted. I love this film. I'm kind of a sucker for Westerns, which we're going to get to in a minute, but this is a fabulous film. I saw it as a result of the library service Canopy. Great stuff. Great acting. The cinematography is beautiful. The story is great. I highly, highly recommend this film, again, called Old Henry. Following that, during Christmas, I was wandering around looking for films that were kind of Christmas films but aren't Christmas films, and I encountered a 1961 film called Cash on Demand. It's directed by Quentin Lawrence, who directed the war film Secret of Blood Island, which I also kind of recommend. It stars Andre Morell and the great Peter Cushing. It has to do with a criminal that goes into a bank at Christmas time and tells the bank manager, hey, I've taken your family hostage, and unless you give me all of this money, something bad's going to happen to them. And then it sort of unfolds from there. It happens around Christmas time. Fabulous. It's a Hammer film that has nothing to do with monsters. It was really enjoyable, really well done, really well acted. Cash on Demand. I saw my copy on YouTube, and it was fabulous. Again, highly recommended, and it's one of those Christmas films that people don't talk about. I think it's definitely a Christmas film, especially with the redemption at the end. but it's fabulous. Over on YouTube, I found a film called The Red House from 1947, directed by Delmar Daves, who directed the classic 3:10 to Yuma, starring Edward G. Robinson, a really young Rory Calhoun, and Julie London, who, if you remember from the old Emergency days, and she was also a songstress back in the day, did a great version of Crimea River. This has to do with a man and his sister who have an adopted daughter, and they have a secret. And little by little, the daughter and this boy in town kind of are poking around, and they discover this house in a woods that they're part of the woods that they're not allowed to go in, and little by little the secret is revealed, and it's fabulous. Edward G. Robinson playing the role. You always expect him to be that guy. Not at all. Heartfelt, beautifully acted, and it's in black and white, but that it's really punchy black and white. I really enjoyed that. After that, also on Tubi, 1954's The Mad Magician. Here was a Vincent Price film that I'd never seen. Ava Gabor's in it. It's directed by John Bram. Has to do with an illusionist who designs tricks, and his most prized secrets are getting stolen by a rival, and he kind of flips out and goes again. He gets mad. It's The Mad Magician. Really good, and surprising, because it's not in that wheelhouse when you think about Vincent Price. And then finally, I got a film directed by Mark Robson, who directed the movie Earthquake in the 60s. He directed Valley of the Dolls, and he directed the great war film Von Ryan's Express. It's produced by Val Lewton, who I'm a huge fan of. I love Val Lewton. This is one of my favorite Val Lewton films. It's called Isle of the Dead from 1945, starring Boris Karloff in a great role. Alan Napier, who played Alfred in the 1966 Batman series, and Ellen Drew. Has to do with a group of people going to a small island during wartime, and a plague breaks out, and the general, who's played by Karloff, won't let anyone leave because they can't infect his troops, they can't infect other people. If the plague is on this island, they have to keep it on the island. And it's sort of it's very Romerian, George Romero, if you know what I'm talking about there. Romero talked about, like with Night of the Living Dead, take a group of characters, lock them in a room, and just watch them bounce off of each other. Isle of the Dead does that in spades. Really great stuff. Speaking of Romero, and I'm not, it's kind of tangentially related to Romero in that this is a quick story time. This occurred at a con in Seattle in 2011 called Zombie Con. It was a great show featuring a lot of people, and it was right at the time Walking Dead was happening, and a lot of people were the whole idea of it was, let's look at zombies, and it was very fun. I did a lot of great interviews there. There are pictures on my website from it. Norman Reedus was there. A lot of the Walking Dead people, like I say, Sid Haig was there, Bill Moseley, those kind of people. But we were doing a panel called Fighting the Living Dead, and the idea was my idea, and it was, let's gather a group of people who know a thing or two about a thing or two, specifically fighting, and let's talk about fighting the living dead. You're in a situation, and how do you defend yourself with zombies? And it seemed like a great idea at the time. The people I gathered were Sean Patrick Flannery from the Boondock Saints, who is a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Roger Ma, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, and he wrote the Zombie Combat Manual, the Vampire Combat Manual, as well as they did coloring books alongside that. Jonathan Mayberry, the great writer, who is an 8th degree black belt in Shinawara Ryu and a 5th degree black belt in Kenjutsu. And myself moderating. I have a background in Muay Thai, Jeet Kune Do, Kendo, Kenjutsu, Filipino martial arts, that kind of thing. So it was going pretty well. At one point, Flannery was being a little dismissive of the whole idea, but he got into it. Jonathan Mayberry said something about a finger strike to the throat that can incapacitate people, and I remember him saying something about killing them on the spot, to which Sean Patrick Flannery took a great exception to. And then to my utter horror, I heard Jonathan Mayberry say, oh, I can show you. And I'm just kind of sitting there chilling out, and Flannery flipped the table and goes, let's do it. And I'm just imagining now I've got two panelists that are about to, at the very least, start sparring, if not full-on fighting. And it was kind of a nightmare. We ended the panel like right after that, kind of pushed everyone out and pushed everyone to the side. It was wild and memorable. People were talking about it the entire weekend. And then, yeah, good times had by all. So there's that. Fun times with Tom and doing conventions. Moving on to books. Couple of things I want to recommend. Let's start here. 1953, Frank O'Rourke did a book called LATIGO. It's about a bank robbery that kind of goes wrong. A Western. All Frank O'Rourke did was Westerns, and he does them very, very well. I had read online that this wasn't worth reading, but after reading it, it's one of my favorite Frank O'Rourke books. Followed, there's a book he did called A Mule for the Marquesa, which was later made into a great Western in the 60s called The Professionals. Lee Marvin, Burt Lancaster, Woody Strode, Joseph Cotton. Great. But LATIGO was really, really good. Had an ending I didn't see coming. Had a great kind of punchy, like kind of one of those endings. Highly recommend it if you can find it. Frank O'Rourke books aren't easy to find. I don't know why he doesn't get more love in the book community, but boy, is he a good writer. I'm reading a book now by him called Battle Royale, which I'll talk about in episodes coming up. After that, John Vaillant did a book in 2011 called The Tiger. Has to do with a tiger in eastern Russia that eats a guy and is wounded and goes around and continues to eat people. And the government sets up a sort of a hit squad, for want of a better word, to go and find it and kill it. And it's really good. It's nonfiction, fictionalized nonfiction, I should say. But it rocks. I got it from the library via their free reader Libby. Good stuff all the way around. Very informative, very exciting, very really gives you an insight in what it was like at that point to live in Eastern Russia, which it wasn't easy. Let's see. After that, I was asking periodically, again, back to being inquisitive. I was asking people on social media to give me some of their recommendations as far as books go. The great Cody Goodfellow, who I'm going to get to on something else in a minute, suggested a book from 1987 by Bruce McAllister called Dream Baby. It has to do with a program in Vietnam, a fictional program in Vietnam that gathered together psychics and people that had what they called abilities to see, let's say, in the dark where people were hiding, or it's not like X-Men kind of stuff. It was just this sort of innate psychic ability. And it has to do with this nurse who is a heroin addict. She dreams people who she's close to, she dreams their death. And little by little, this team gets sort of brought together and they're sent on a mission. And it's really good. It's really well written. The pacing is great. I highly recommend it. If you can find it, Bruce McAllister's stuff, much like Frank O'Rourke, it's hard to get your hands on. I had to look a long time before I was able to finally find that. And then I'm going to wind all this up with New Tomorrow, Cody Goodfellow's latest book, a pulp-inspired alternative history thing. shorthand, I told a friend, it's kind of like Jules Verne's Watchmen, if that makes sense. Very kind of steampunky in ways, very sort of like Marvel-y, for want of a better term, but it has to do with in the past, like the 30s or 40s kind of time frame, very kind of serial, if you remember the serials that they used to run in movie theaters. It's great stuff. I highly recommend not only New Tomorrow, but also all of Cody's books. Cody is a great writer and knows his stuff when it comes about music. He's got a great radio show on a radio station in San Diego that is fabulous. I'm constantly stealing stuff from Cody. And I just finished last night Hayder, which I have mentioned previous videos, The Devil of Nanking. Didn't like it. Liked aspects of it. Didn't like it. Don't know that I'd recommend it. It gets favorable reviews. People talking about how shocking it is and how they cried, and I got nothing. I finished it and immediately deleted it from my Kindle. I won't be going back on Hayder, and yeah, I'm glad I read it, but I don't recommend it. Let's see. Moving on to records. Again, I'm going to show some of this because I put so much work into it. This is the stuff. This is the work that you got to do to find stuff, to not be saddled with the same old things. I have friends that their listening habits are firmly rooted in their teenage years, or like in their 20s. They're listening to stuff still from the 80s and what have you. And they're all specifically American or British, excuse me. It's a big world out there, and every place in the world these days has its own scene. I recently fell down a hole of Serbian surf music. You can put together different terms, and there's a scene for it. Back in the 60s, for example, in Cambodia, there was a great like surfy rock kind of scene that was happening, and then the Khmer Rouge came in and killed everybody. But my point is like there's so much music out there. There's so many different iterations. I watched a video the other day of the difference between house and trance and deep house, and that went on for 30 minutes, and there was so many like little subcategories that I never knew. I had no idea about. I do now, and so that's great. So, going through the list. Let's start 2025. The band is called Brintex Collective. The record is called Make It Make Sense. Brintex Collective is from Rotterdam. They're a modern jazz sort of horn-based band. Think Robert Clasper and Theo Croker, that kind of thing. Good stuff. Very much enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. Again, you can find it on Spotify and on YouTube. After that, let's see, 2020, there's a record called Weaving a Basket by CSEA Oleena, Oleena, Canadian-based ethereal artist. Lovely. It's a lovely record. Think Harold Budd, Grouper, Autumn's Grace Solace. Lovely record, perfect for late night, perfect for early morning, that kind of thing. Just really good, really enjoyable. Following that, 2025, Erika de Casier, Decasier. The record is called Lifetime. She's a Danish vocalist. Again, very ethereal, very sort of love spirals downwards, sort of that kind of a thing. Reminded me a lot of James Kay and FKA Twigs. Good stuff. It's not going to shake the world, but it's lovely to put on, especially if you're working, if you're writing, or you're painting, or you just want a nice way to start your day or end your day. Good stuff. Following that, 2005, there was a band called Entheogenic, aka Piers Oak Rind and Helmet Glaver. The record was called Dialogue of the Speakers. Very chill and atmospheric. Not quite new age, but kind of new agey. But lovely. Lovely and highly recommended. Reminded me a lot of Zero Cult, Ought, and Floating Grooves, if any of those names are striking any bells. Lovely stuff, and very much enjoyed it. Following that, 2017, the band is called Soup. The record is called Remedies. It's the 7th album from this Norwegian band. Has a great cover, reminding me a lot of, if it doesn't make sense, like it reminded me of third world cannibal films for some reason. Don't ask me why. But the music itself reminded me of Fido and Godspeed You Black Emperor. Great stuff. I don't know why more people don't talk about that band, because they definitely deserve it. Next, Lalalar, L-A-L-A-L-A-R, from 2022. The record is called By CINNETE BAKAR. This is a band from Istanbul, and it blends psychedelic rock, Anatolian funk, and break beats. Reminded me of Alton Gun, if you know that band, or Gay Su Akyol. Great stuff. I fed it over to the previously mentioned Cody Goodfellow, and he enjoyed it as well. It's good stuff, different. It brings a lot of cultural things to the table and mixes it seamlessly with modern music. Lovely stuff. Well worth checking out. It's going to be a little outside most people's sort of lane, but give it a chance and give it some time, and you're going to love it. Following that, 1966, the great Wayne Shorter, a record called Speak No Evil. It's his 6th solo record. Genre would be hard bop and modal jazz. Shorter is a legend, played with Miles Davis, Weather Report, VSOP, and this record itself has Freddie Hubbard on it, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Elvin Jones. This is a classic jazz record in a good way. It doesn't get into that sort of screechy, annoying jazz sometimes that era of jazz can get into. One of the classic jazz records of all time. Yeah, Wayne Shorter, Speak No Evil. Following that, I saw Marcus King on Rick Beato's show, and they asked him about guitar players, and he mentioned Jimmy Herring, and that led him to mentioning a band called the Aquarium Rescue Unit. The record, The Calling, is from 2003. Herring used to play with Widespread Panic, and this sounds kind of in that neighborhood. Also reminded me of a newer band called Garage Mahal. Good stuff, fun stuff. It rocked. I immediately added other Aquarium Rescue Unit records to my inbox. Sidebar. On my streaming system, I work in a manner of I have an inbox, that's where all the new stuff comes in. And then once I listen to it all, I part it out to different playlists. I keep a morning, afternoon, and night playlist. I also keep a soundtrack playlist. And my thinking is just a big dump bin that I throw everything, hit random on. So if it's at nighttime and I don't want to hear necessarily, let's say, hard rock, this playlist, that's where all of that stuff goes. So my inbox is pretty huge. It's got, I don't know, 5,000-6,000 song titles in it. And then one by one, I clip it off. A lot of it comes here. A lot of it gets posted, or was getting posted, to my Facebook page. Yeah, that's how it works. And that's how I find these things, along with my aforementioned lists. Moving on, 2025, the great Mark Lettieri group did a record called Meets the WDR Big Band at Studio 4. Great stuff. Reminded me of hard, jazzy, sort of big bandy jazz fusion. Think Ghost Note, Think Lettuce, the band Lettuce, Victor Wooten, and of course Lettieri. Lettieri used to, or still does, plays with the band Snarky Puppy. That'll give you a sort of an idea. It's shredding. It's not shredding, but everyone is killing it. It's very funky. It also reminded me of Cory Wong. So yeah, highly recommend that as well. Last one. Forgive me on the pronunciation of this stuff. The band is called Gan Eden and Il Giardino della Delizie. It means Garden of Eden and Garden of Earthly Delights. The record is called Lavori in Corso from 2007. Again, it's Italian progressive rock project brought together by Angelo Santo Lombardi. This is classic Italian prog. Reminded me a lot of PFM, of Banco del Museo Corso. It reminded me of La Orme. Great. This would be a good inroad if you've never heard a lot of Italian prog. First of all, go and hit those names: PFM, Banco, La Orme, Goblin, that kind of thing. But this is another good record to sort of break the ice on, like sort of crack the egg and give you an inroad on what that's all about. I'm a big Italian prog rock fan, and you can also find some great videos out there. Scott over at the Prog Corner does a whole show on it, and that's another good way to wet your feet. So that's that for a Monday. I think I've given you a lot. Head over to there's a hidden web page on my website, www.tomcarnell.com/KMRE. I provided 200 hours of radio show. They're an hour at a time. It was from a show I did here on a local radio station. A lot of audio clips, a lot of music clips. Good fun and a great way to get exposed to music that is a little outside of all of our comfort zones. And while you're there, I have more deeper into my website. There's information on all my books, and there's pictures and all that kind of stuff. And check out I'm gonna grab over here, kind of a little shill time. My latest book, Monolith Records, has to do with working in record stores in 1985. It's kind of a romantic comedy, which is atypical to a lot of my other content. Good stuff all the way around. So there you go. That's a Monday. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you can. Please share the video if you can. I'm trying to make the channel a little bigger. And let me know if you try any of these and what you thought. There's an awful lot of stuff to be found out there. And if you just take the time and you show your due diligence, you can find things that'll, as cliche as it sounds, that'll change your life. So again, take care. Have a good Monday. We'll see you on Wednesday. I got a lot of stuff already planned. So there you go. Take care.